by choosing online agendas. Now, let us begin. Madam Secretary, what is our first item of business?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, Directors Garcia and Carr have joined the board. The first item of business on tonight's agenda is action on the minutes of the December 2022 special and regular meetings of the Milwaukee Board of School Directors.
Do any members of the board have corrections for the minutes of December 22? There being no corrections, these minutes are approved as presented. Madam Secretary, are there any reports or communications from the superintendent?
Yes, Mr. President, we do have one report, and that is the monthly report of the Superintendent of Schools. This is an informational item, and although it has been noticed for possible action, no action is required.
Would the administration please present this report?
Good evening, President Peterson and members of the board. Keith Posley, Superintendent of Schools. This month's report highlights some of the exciting events that are taking place around the district. Many of you participated in our winter graduation that took place on Saturday, January 7th of 2023 at Green Tree Preparatory Academy. I want to take this opportunity to congratulate our 122 Milwaukee Public School graduates for their significant accomplishments. To the family, friends, and loved ones, as well as the amazing MPS staff who supported and inspired our young people along the journey, we thank you for making a difference in the lives of our students. On Monday, January 16th of 2023, as we recognize the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., our students participated in the 39th annual Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Birthday celebration at the Marcus Performing Arts Center. This year's theme was Working Towards a World of Peace. Students from all around the district participated in the art, speech, and writing contest and were named top winners in each category. Additionally, we thank City Year and all the city's volunteers for the day of service at Dr. Ben Carson Academy of Science. Also, to let you know, on January 28th of 2023, MPS will welcome the 8th edition of the City Review Showcase MPS student athletes and performers over a full day of City Conference basketball at the Marquette University Al McGuire Center. I invite each of you to come out and support the event. On kindergarten enrollment fair, our kindergarten enrollment fair, where families will have an opportunity to learn about the amazing schools and programs we have in MPS, take place on Saturday, February 4th, 2023 at North Division High School from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. While at the fair, parents will be able to enroll their children for the upcoming school year. This event, we will be joined by. Today, I just want to share it. Tonight is very special to me because we're going to be joined tonight by the Superintendent Student Advisory Council. And they are sitting here along with me, ready and eager to get started. And a host of them are sitting out in the audience. And I just at this time would like to introduce David Valdez, who's the coordinator for the group, and have David to come to the mic. I tried to get David to come up to the on stage, but he wanted to be down with the students. So David, take it away.
President Peterson and members of the board, my name is David Valdez, and I am the proud, I can't say it loud enough, proud advisor of the Superintendent Student Advisory Council, or otherwise known as the SSAC. Now, before I introduce these three amazing and incredible Milwaukee Public School ambassadors, I would like to share a little bit more about our group. This is my fourth year as the advisor of the SSAC, and our goal has always been, and continues to be, to represent as many high schools, all the high schools actually, in the district with student voice. Our goal also is to include students that represent various groups with varying areas of interest in their school community, including members of LIT, YES, and Urban Underground. Now, each year, participation in the SSAC has grown. This year, we are proud to say that we currently have 56 members in the SSAC as part of this esteemed council. Members of the SSAC play an instrumental part in providing student voice and advocacy for topics that impact their schools and the district as a whole. At this time, I'm very proud to introduce co-presidents sitting next to Dr. Posley, Noah Buendia. In the middle seat is Savion Jarvis. And last but never least, the most charming vice president, Sydney McDuffie. Take it away, you guys.
President Peterson, members of the board, my name is Noah Buendia, and I represent the High Flying Cardinals from Audubon Technology and Communication High School.
President Peterson, members of the board, my name is Savion Jarvis, and I represent the Mighty Owls of Golda School. We are the co-presidents of the 2022-2023 school year.
President Peterson, members of the board, my name is Sydney McDuffie, Vice President of the SSAC. I also represent the Owls from Golda Meir School. The SSAC is comprised of a diverse group of student voices. Our purpose is to engage with the superintendent, Dr. Posley, sharing with him our views and perspectives regarding the everyday pulse of high schools in the district.
It is an honor to be selected as officers and ambassadors representing high schools from across the district.
Student voice is very important to us as it provides us an opportunity to improve the high school experience for all students.
We also lead a team of at-large members that meet with Mr. Valdez prior to our monthly SSAC meetings. This provides us an opportunity to set the agendas and topics for our meetings. Our members at large, could I get you to stand when I mention your name, are Bujana Tabala from Milwaukee High School of the Arts, Dejan Addison from Riverside University High School, who is not with us tonight, and Jeffrey Payne from Milwaukee Marshall High School.
We would like to recognize the SSAC members for the 2022 to 2023 school year. Could you all please stand? This year, we've had great, inspiring guests ranging from members of central office leadership, such as Dr. Patricia Ellis, Director of Equity, Access, and Inclusion, the Black Latino Male Achievement Leaders, under the direction of Mr. Nate Deans, the Gender Identity and Inclusion Team, under the direction of Miss Ebony Lewis and Miss Leanne Tiley from the League of Women Voters of Milwaukee County. One of the highlights of the year has been the SSAC luncheons. Dr. Posley meets with students on their campus during the lunch hour to simply have conversations with students about their concerns. The SSAC members host the event and select 10 to 12 of their peers to sit at the table and chat with Dr. Posley.
At this time, I would like to welcome Sydney McDuffie and Savion Jarvis, both seniors at Golda Meir High School, to share with you how they developed an affinity group called Culturally Competent Collective, or CCC. Sydney and Savion presented this at the first SSAC meeting to Dr. Posley and the rest of the SSAC members.
CCC stands for Culturally Competent Collective. Cultural competency can be defined as the ability to understand and respect the many differences in cultures. The CCC is made up of determined students who want to make a positive impact in their school community. The goal of the initiative is to break down cultural biases and improve cultural sensitivity in our school community. We also aim to be representative of the different cultures that exist within our school. The members of the CCC should be a melting pot of students from different cultural backgrounds and affinity groups who are willing to share their culture with their school community.
The CCC at Golda Meir has been working towards growing a better connection with our staff. One way we have done this is by being present at staff meetings. We've also produced culture celebration programs such as Hispanic Heritage Month, Black History Month, and etc.
Our purpose is to emphasize the significance of one's cultural identity, to establish a connection between staff, students, and administrators, and to foster change and welcome acceptance in our school communities.
One of our goals is to assist students in establishing CCC at schools district-wide by encouraging them to find a teacher to become staff representatives, guiding the organization of students of different affinity groups and cultural identities to be part of the initiative, and meet as a collective and get approved by your administrators. By doing so, not only do students gain the ability to create necessary change at their schools, but we gain the ability to collaborate with other CCC initiatives district-wide. This concludes our presentation. Thank you for sharing your time with us this evening. We are happy to answer any questions you may have for us.
Thank you. This concludes, as the young man just shared with us. Java said, no, that's okay. Java's good. We're together on this. So we are prepared to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Sure. Any comments or questions from board members? Dr. Taylor.
Thank you, President Peterson. Thank you all for coming. Go Golda. We'll go all the schools too. I don't want to sound biased. But I've been knowing Sydney since she was young, and her mom and brothers them. So great job. I guess I want to know, like, as you guys are what we consider the leadership with our young students, what do you prioritize as one thing that is going well within the MPS school district, and one thing that I can say we can enhance or improve?
Go ahead.
I think, especially speaking from like the perspective of a Golda Meir student. Oh, I'm sorry. Director Taylor, President Peterson, and members of the board. I am Sydney McDuffie, and I'm representing Golda Meir. I would say, as a student of Golda Meir, I think we're really good with like allowing students to have a voice in like a lot of decisions. Us being here is just a testament to that. I would say, as far as things that could be improved on, generally, it would be really good to see, I know we've had discussions about this before, just more collaboration among our schools. And the CCC was just one way we thought we could do that, by just like embracing and celebrating the diversity of our city, as it is very diverse. But yeah, that's my take on that.
Also, I'd like to add Director Taylor, President Peterson, and members of the board. My name is Savion Jarvis, and I also go to Golda Meir High School. One thing that we also aim to improve in Milwaukee Public School District is equity, and I feel like that is something also the CCC aims to do, and the SSAC also does. When you give students a voice and when you give students a platform on an equal level and you allow them to collaborate, it starts to allow them to have the resources and find what their school might be missing. So that's also something we are aiming to battle against in MPS.
Director Taylor, President Peterson, and members of the board, my name is Noah Buendia, and I represent Audubon High School. I'd like to agree with both of my members, and I would like to include that we can definitely work more on things like transportation for all students, and also the communication model, the cell phone policy. But we are doing great, like Sydney said, with the representation of our students, because that is one of the most important things. As Dr. Posley says, like, we are the ones that walk the halls and we see. So I truly think that our representation is very important to MPS, and I feel like that's just great that we're allowed to have that voice. Thank you.
Other comments, follow-up?
Really quick. Just thank you all for that, and I look and I see you, and hopefully I'll see you as school board directors in the future, Noah, Savion, and Sydney, so thank you.
Yes, Director. Director Leonard.
So first of all, I want to thank you, Mr. Valdez. Often when we look at the teachers in a building or the students under you, or with you, I would rather say, and I see how well they represent themselves, and they do an excellent job. That's also a reflection on the relationship you have with the person that's working with you. So thank you for that. I just want to say you're not just making a positive impact in the schools and elsewhere, but you're also making it on this board. When I was here 28 years ago, you were unheard of. We did not have such a thing as this, and I think that this makes a massive difference. It has great potential in shaping this district, so thank you very much.
I'm going to take Director Simpson.
So yeah, just thank you so much for being here tonight, and for all of you who are on this council to, put in that extra effort. It's on top of your heavy workload that you're already doing at the high school level. So just thank you for all of the work that you're doing and helping us, understand and hear from you more about what is working and what's not working, and listening to your suggestions is invaluable to us. One question I had with the Culturally Competent Collective is, in terms of moving forward, as juniors become seniors and move out of those high schools, how is that going to be continued? Is this something that you're working, throughout, like freshmen, sophomore, so that that program continues and there's that history and knowledge there to keep building off from?
Thank you, Director Simpson, and President Peterson, and members of the board. So for the vision for the CCC it's completely student-led. So the beauty of that is students have the ability to recruit how they see fit, but it also should be a melting pot, like we said, of those different affinity groups in those schools. So you have a voice of every culture of the school. But when it comes to recruitment or keeping the legacy, there's supposed to be a teacher liaison, or a teacher just to bridge that gap and to do kind of like more of the paperwork and be a facilitator. So what we do at GOTA, we do a good job of making sure all grade levels are represented. So we make sure that we have freshmen on the board. We make sure we have sophomores, we have juniors and seniors. So when we leave, they can continue on the work, and the recruitment process just keeps on building up.
Great. Go ahead. Sorry.
I just wanted to add to that, Director Simpson, President Peterson, members of the board. This is Sydney McDuffie from Golda Meir. I would say also, in addition to just ensuring that we have that recruitment from various grade levels, it's also about creating that connection among our staff. When we were first established, we were able to not only sit in on a staff meeting, but also share a presentation, asking our teachers to kind of reflect on the environments they were creating and whether or not those were culturally conscious, just being mindful of maybe where the differences in maybe location. So if our teachers weren't from Milwaukee, were they acknowledging that there could be some obstacles to maybe understanding students and their needs due to that? So just like ensuring that we're also established among the staff is one way we're also aiming to keep the legacy going.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm so happy to hear that, and what a great opportunity for everybody involved in that. And I'm so happy to hear that there's sort of that plan for moving forward and keeping that continuity in those groups going, and it's important work. So thank you so much for taking that on and doing that for the district.
Thank you. Director Herndon?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I simply wanted to say thank you, young people, so much. Thank you, Mr. Valdez, for all the hard work that you do. I am very impressed and also appreciative that you're investing in your future. You are the future and you are doing a wonderful job. I think you're well trained, and I think that you'll do wonderful things in your future. So we're proud to have you here tonight. Thank you so much.
Director O'Halloran?
Thank you. I met with some students at Reagan this week and from LIT, and one of the questions they had for me was how we can get more students involved in things. And I said, as a board, we can allocate funding for clubs and such, but I don't know the answer on how to make sure that we're signing up kids to join whatever club it is. So if it's trying to engage in this, or if it's with LIT, yes, or if it's, anime club, like whatever turns them on, like how do you have recommendations how we can do a better job of getting students engaged in club activities?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Director Halloran, President Peterson, members of the board. So stuff like that, it's like a multitude of areas you have to cover when getting student engagement. For starters, I would say a big one is teacher-student connection. From my understanding, you need teachers to oversee a club or to oversee something to make it happen. First, I would say you would want to make sure that students feel comfortable with their teachers. Students feel like they want to be at school in environments at school. So first, but it's also acknowledging your school culture. You want to make sure that students want to go to school and feel safe at school. So I would say that's a big incentive to make students want to do more clubs, want to be more involved, and making sure that they have the resources. I know a lot of different schools in the district get more funding than others or have more resources than others. So I know at certain schools, they don't even know about like the things they have going on in their own community. So I would say also uplifting and amplifying that voice in certain schools, and amplifying that they know that they have these resources and these outlets.
Thank you. Any other comments from board members?
Director O'Halloran, President Peterson, members of the board, my name is Noah Buendia. I represent Audubon High School. And I'd like to say and add on to Savion that what makes student involvement is making the school a community. And what that means is making sure that they're comfortable, making sure that they actually enjoy going to school. So yeah, that's a really big factor. And just giving them that input and output for opportunity to do things that they like. So starting these clubs and starting these activities and sports and other extracurriculars. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Director O'Halloran, President Peterson, and members of the board. I also just wanted to add to what was being said, emphasizing like the importance of student-teacher relationships, but also at like Golda, we have a lot of student-led clubs. So if there's something that we want to start, the process for that is as simple as getting a teacher to facilitate that and getting it approved by our principal. So I think creating that environment and that space for students to kind of create things if they like have something they're interested in. But I also think it's like exposure, which I think Savion touched on as well, making them aware of just the many different things that are offered. Sometimes there can be a lack of communication within the school about when a club starts or what is required to participate in it. Sometimes there's discouragement with the assumption that like they have to have something before they join something. So I think just focusing really on communication and how that exists within a school, that's the most important factor when considering like how to get students more engaged. Thank you.
I'll speak briefly. First of all, I want to thank you and everybody in the audience who is a member once again. But I just want to say I thank you not only as being student activists and student leaders, but also future leaders of this country, of this community. We're depending on you to make this place a lot better than we're leaving to you, unfortunately. At least I am. And I want you all to consider being teachers in the future. I believe that if you go to UW-Madison and get it in special program, you can get your entire tuition paid becoming a teacher if you agree to teach a certain amount of years after that. And speaking of somebody who was a teacher for 3 decades, I really enjoyed that. And so for some of the same reasons that you're talking about getting students involved as students, we as teachers, as you say, do have that obligation to build the relationships, to encourage leadership. And it's clear that thanks to Mr. Valdez and other people and your advisors, that's happening. Are there other advisors here in the crowd who, in the audience who are here? If you are, could you just stand up? Any other advisors? Okay, I guess not. That's okay. Well, I'd like to have a round of applause for all of the students. And thank you very much, especially for the 3 that presented. Another round of applause for them. Madam Secretary, are there any reports or communications from the Office of Board Governance?
Yes, Mr. President, we were noticed for 2 communications, and that first communication from the Office of Board Governance was action on the request to retire to closed session regarding litigation in which the board is or is likely to become involved. As our legal counsel has informed, they would like to provide that update to the board next month, so that item has been withdrawn from consideration.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, what is the next communication from the Office of Board Governance?
The next communication from the Office of Board Governance is the monthly report on legislative activities affecting Milwaukee Public Schools. This is an informational item, and although it has been noticed for possible action, no action is required.
Thank you, and I'll just remind the students here, what Mr. Thiel is going to talk about, it really affects you and your school, so just take a listen. Mr. Thiel.
Thank you, President Peterson, members of the board, Chris Thiel, Office of Governmental Relations. This month's report focuses in large part on the legislative agenda that we bring before you every 2 years as we head into the next calendar cycle with the state legislature. The items included in our agenda are familiar. We remain focused on a lot of the work that we've been doing over the last couple of years, and we've seen some success, which we're thankful for. And actually, the major edit to this report compared to the one that we presented 2 years ago is that at that time, we were just at the beginning of lobbying for assistance for all of our efforts related to COVID. And so that part has been edited out, but I do think it'd be appropriate to share a round of thanks to the administration, the board, Council of Great City Schools, and everyone else who worked weekly, daily, not only at the local level, but had contact at the national level with the council, with our federal level representatives, to really bring the support needed down to school districts across the country. So that I would point to as a success, and that coordination of purpose, I think, really has benefited our students. What we have here, again, and we say this every time we present, is that this agenda is a living document. The areas of focus, although we have them numbered, they're not in rank order. There is no one policy that's more or less important. We try to create the context to bring some of these policies forward so that we can have success with members of the legislature and with the partners across the state, the Rural Schools Alliance, Southeastern Wisconsin Schools Alliance, Wisconsin Public Education Network, WASB, school administrators. The more we're working together, the better off we are. And two points in particular as we head into this session. Last night, the governor had his State of the State address, but he will also be presenting his budget, I believe, on February 15. So between now and then, we've already been engaged in much of this activity. Are thankful for the state superintendent's continued support in her proposed budget. But since that proposal came forward, we've seen increases in the surplus at the state level and new reports from the Legislative Fiscal Bureau about how much funding is available for us to work with as we enter into the next budget cycle. One of the things that there is clear coordination around is the fact that the per pupil adjustment that we need in this upcoming biennium is substantial. We need a $1,511 per pupil adjustment over this 2-year period at minimum to simply get us back on pace with the rate of inflation over this 4-year period. The 2 years that we just experienced where we had no per pupil adjustment, which is just extremely unusual in the history of the state. And then the forecast for the upcoming 2 years, when you put those amounts together and say, what would it take for us to simply get back on track? And I know sometimes this is described as an increase, and in fact, simply it's an adjustment. This is keeping pace with inflation. That's where we get the $1,511 figure from. I'm pleased to say that districts across the state are in agreement. We had a lot of fantastic and robust conversation last week at the Wisconsin Association of School Boards Convention, and there has already been a discussion with legislators, the governor's office, just laying out the math. This is math, where this number comes from. And in fact, I think I'd point to the leadership of the Mequon School District as well. Obviously, in combination with what this board has done, which has always been included in our legislative agenda, but school districts like Mequon have gone out there and just have done an evaluation in the moment that we know we all are in terms of hiring, retaining, and treating staff the way we know we need to treat them. And also in overcoming this moment that we're in as a state where we're still at this historically low level of support for our students with disabilities. We're still hovering in the low 30% for our reimbursement rate. We were once a state that was closer to 75%. Private schools in this state get a 90% reimbursement rate for students with disabilities. We're currently around 32. So the two main areas of focus here are the ask to move the per pupil over the 2-year period by $1,511, simply to keep pace with inflation, and then to accelerate what the state superintendent has already asked for in terms of special education, and move to a 60% reimbursement rate in the first year, 90% reimbursement rate in the second year. Just to give you a sense of that, if we were treated in the same way as private schools, we would have $112 million more annually, that we would not have to shift away from work in order to make sure that we are supporting our students with disabilities, which obviously we would and intend to do. But that just gives you a sense of how far down we've gotten as a state in terms of our support. State of Kansas recently, a state which, if you've followed their budgetary exploits over the last 10 years, they've certainly been on a roller coaster, but their governor has moved to go for 100% reimbursement rate for special education. And actually, that's what the Mequon-Thiensville School District is asking for as well. So very pleased to say that there's a level of determination, perhaps I haven't seen before in terms of our coordinated efforts on those two main points. We'll continue to pursue those, as well as all the items that we have as part of our legislative agenda. So happy to answer any questions if you have.
Could you brief?
Chair?
Yes.
Before the board members go into questioning on the item, this item is being presented as a draft, which gives the board an opportunity to review the item, also make any suggestions for prioritizing the work, making additions, and even subtractions to the legislative agenda before session starts. So just wanted to make sure that everybody took a look at the attachment being presented by the Office of Board Governance. We're open for any questions.
Well, thank you. And Mr. Thiel, could you just explain also how much money the state has?
President Peterson, members of the board, the Legislative Fiscal Bureau came out with an update yesterday that there's now a $7.1 billion surplus as of the most recent update. And there's an additional $1.7 billion beyond that that's in a rainy day fund. So we're looking at over, $8.8 billion of surplus. And arguably, much of that's been created by underfunding schools. In this conversation about even arriving at this $1,511 per pupil number, the fact of the matter is that there once in this state was a commitment to at least keep pace with inflation. This was not a controversial policy. In fact, it was Governor Tommy Thompson who put that in place. We have not had a per pupil inflationary adjustment for 14 years in the state of Wisconsin. So when there's some surprise that we have a surplus, when at the same time we've been so dramatically underfunding our schools, those two things are directly connected. In order to actually get back on track, if you take those 14 years that we've experienced and project ahead these additional two, you would need over $4,000 per pupil to restore what was the commitment to kids in Wisconsin by simply providing that inflationary adjustment. So we're asking for $1,511, focusing on this most recent 4-year period. Some people have said that sounds high, and I think you could also show math that it's actually low relative to policies we've had in the past.
Thank you, and certainly our students deserve it. Any comments or questions? Director Gokul Gandhi.
Mr. Thiel, this is a really robust agenda. So just in your perspective, could you rank order? I know they're all really important, but what would be your top three priorities in terms of if we were to make this sort of a rank ordered list?
President Peterson, Director Gokul Gandhi. So I'm gonna pivot to the Vincent versus Voigt decision regarding the constitutionality of our K-12 funding system. And at that time, there was a Justice Crooks who made clear that as long as the state was appropriately funding students with disabilities, students who were had barriers related to economic challenges, and students who were English learners, the constitutionality of the state's funding system would pass muster. We are lower in all three categories than we were in 2001 when he made that statement. So, you know, in terms of prioritizing, I think if I wanted to make sure that I had a funding system that met the constitutional muster that he described, those are the three areas that focus should be brought to.
So it sounds like the state is not living up to its constitutional requirement for our schools, which, that's unfortunate, and maybe we could take some action on that at some point in time, but thank you for your update.
So out of curiosity, I don't know if you'll know this, maybe Dr. Posley will, adding $112 million to our special ed budget, if we would be at the correct amount that you're speaking to, how much is our current special education budget? Do you know, Dr. Posley?
President Peterson and members of the board, I will have you an answer momentarily. Martha Kreisman is working on that and will be bringing it out to me very shortly.
Here she comes.
And if I could, Director Leonard, President Peterson, the figure I'm using is a figure that was provided to us by the Legislative Fiscal Bureau. So there was a document that was put together that took a look at.
Mr. Thiel, could you just wait a minute?
Yes, please. Sure.
We're going to say goodbye to their students. Let's have one more round of applause for our students.
Director Leonard, President Peterson, just to be clear, that figure that I'm using is taken from a Legislative Fiscal Bureau memo. Obviously, given the size of our district, that is the number, but there's a comparable figure for the 420 other school districts across the state. And I apologize, I don't know off the top of my head of an answer for our total current budget, and so I'm just making clear that there may be an updated figure since that.
I mean, obviously I'm
memo.
leading up to something. So, when we look at our special education programs, and today we were at Gensland School, and I had a chance to talk to a special ed teacher for some time. And we discussed the challenges with the bridging programs and different things we have in our district, and how, granted, we were not able to get the staff that we need. If we could, that amount of money, I believe, would literally, and I hate to just throw numbers out there, but that could change drastically the teacher per pupil contact time for just our special ed students. Making a difference in our district has to come fiscally from them. And to say otherwise is, to me, egregious. I don't know how else to say it. It's egregious. I've heard the complaints saying we get too much money, and I sort of want to laugh about that, because we know that those of us on the front lines we're not doing what we want to do with our students in our classrooms. We want to give them a lot more than that. So when we get those numbers, that would be great. Thank you. Sorry for the curveball.
And I could, I think, follow up on that point, or we could get the number first.
Administration?
President Peterson, members of the board, turn it over to Martha Kreisman.
President Peterson, members of the board, Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. As of 1/3/2023, we have an allocation of 59 million out of 199 million of costs.
Is that 59 million, so you mean that we should have 199 million if we wanted to totally fund the program?
Right, the 199 million is the net aidable costs.
President Peterson, Director Leonard, so I think even from the time of that Fiscal Bureau memo, costs have increased.
Yeah.
And I think if I follow your point, we're in a situation in the state where it's hard for folks to even conceive of improving conditions as opposed to just keeping your head above water. Whether part of the conversations from last week, it was obvious that even asking for this $1,511, which again is keeping your head above water, it's keeping pace with inflation, that we're finally getting to the belief that we can ask for that. And what would happen in this state if we actually had the funding necessary and had this level of reimbursement for students with disability is we would get out of the vicious cycle that we're in, and we would get into a positive cycle where we would be able to bring in the staff. We would be able to say to people, come work in our school, whether it's MPS, whether it's any school district. But what every story we're hearing now, again at the convention last week, rural districts, suburban districts, urban districts, teachers, school psychologists, counselors, what have you, we need to have the conditions in place to even imagine a situation where we can bring that level of improvement necessary. And we put this in dollar terms. What parents want and what kids want are exactly the things that you've just described. What this means is real people helping our kids and moving everything forward. So these are numbers, these are statistics, but at the end of the day, that's where we're trying to get to.
Thank you. Other comments or questions? Director Herndon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Thiel, do you have any idea why we've endured this injustice for so many years, that there doesn't seem to be any concern about the devastation that it's causing to our public schools statewide?
Mr. Thiel.
President Peterson, Director Herndon, I was thinking about this a little bit today, and the thought that came to mind is the No Child Left Behind Act. So anybody who experienced the federal law, the No Child Left Behind Act, it had a bar that there was going to be 100% proficiency across the United States of America. This was past great fanfare. This is 2001, 2002. We're gonna hit this bar, and over the next 12 years, you saw the challenge first emerge with urban school districts because of many of the funding issues that we're talking about today. And then the rural districts started to get hit in terms of, are we going to be able to hit that bar? And then finally, 7, 8, 9 years into the No Child Left Behind Act, the policy design that didn't make any sense of the No Child Left Behind Act started to impact suburban school districts. So it wasn't just the urban districts that were saying, hey, this doesn't work for our kids, and it's pretty obvious. And then it wasn't the rural districts that were saying the same message. Then it was the suburban districts as well. And once that happened, we saw a change to the law. What I think is happening now is that the inadequate funding across the state of Wisconsin is hitting everybody, finally. If we have, people say teacher crisis, and I think folks at the state level don't hear us, don't believe that their policies are causing the damage that they do, right? We had a governor who said, I'm going to drop a bomb on teachers. And we're now in 2022, and the ramifications of defunding schools are having their effect no matter where you live. So Sometimes it takes time to get that collective voice. I know a lot of our partners have always been in this, but my hope is that people are finally hearing us in a way where we can see some change.
Follow?
Thank you.
Dr. Gokul Gandhi.
So it feels premeditated. So what is, in your opinion, what's the end game? What are they getting at here? And why continue down this path when people have been ringing the alarm bells for years and they see what's really happening?
President Peterson, Director Gokul Gandhi, I think, just to look across the state, we also have the effect of the gerrymander, which we're one of the most gerrymandered states in the United States of America. And not only the urban-rural-suburban issue, but that gerrymander has created a condition where, I'm sure we've all heard this before, instead of us picking our legislative officials, the legislative officials are picking us. And so the decision as to whether or not people at the state level have to hear and take action is governed by that in a lot of ways. So, we see this policy that's been introduced in the last week for a flat tax. And there's now commentary in the newspaper that I think points out correctly that where we have heard some pushback when we ask for 90% reimbursement for special education, the flat tax proposal is 5 times more expensive than supporting our kids with disabilities. If supporting our kids with disabilities is not sustainable, the flat tax proposal is 5 times worse. So if we can conceive of doing something like that, but have difficulty conceiving of supporting our kids with disabilities in the state of Wisconsin, it's not because of it's a lack of funding. If there are other policy priorities, people are, they're free to say that out loud. But it's not because we don't have the money. We can do this.
And I would just add that 2 of the driving goals of the legislators who have gerrymandered our state is to decrease taxes, especially those for the more affluent, and also privatize schools. I mean, it's clear that, Milwaukee was the petri plate for vouchers, but that's been expanded statewide, and it's now, we're talking millions, hundreds of millions of dollars spent on private schools, whereas public schools remain highly underfunded. And those are 2 strong ideological points that many of the legislators hold, I believe. Other comments or questions? Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Thiel. Madam Secretary, what is the next communication?
The next communication is that from the Office of Accountability and Efficiency, and that is the monthly report with possible action. This is an informational item, and although it has been noticed for possible action, no action is required.
Would the Office of Accountability and Efficiency please present its report?
Thank you, Chair Peterson. Matt Chasen, Office of Accountability and Efficiency. That report is before you. I'll just briefly highlight the work that the board saw on Tuesday evening regarding to the 5-year forecast. I'll thank again the Office of Finance for their collaboration in that effort. I had a real good tie-in to the students that were here to encourage them to avail themselves of all the financial literacy courses that the district now offers. The ability to forecast one's own financial future is a powerful one. So if anyone's still listening, I offer that guidance to you. Otherwise, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, any questions? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, what is our next item of business?
The next item is action on the reports of the independent hearing officers of the Milwaukee Board of School Directors, the student expulsions.
The chair will entertain a motion to accept, modify, or reject the report of the independent hearing officers of the dates and times listed in our agenda. Do I have a motion, please? Director Herndon.
I move acceptance of the recommendation as written.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
On Director Herndon's motion, to accept the reports of the independent hearing officers, seconded by Director Garcia. On the motion as read, Director Carr?
Aye.
Director Garcia?
Aye.
Director Gokul Gandhi?
Aye.
Director Herndon?
Aye.
Director Leonard?
Aye.
Director O'Halloran?
Abstain.
Director Simpson?
Aye.
Vice President Taylor?
Aye.
President Peterson?
Aye.
That's 8 ayes, 1 abstention. The motion passes.
We'll now have the reports of the standing committees. Since public hearing was given at the committee level, the board, as is customary, will not be giving public hearing on these reports this evening. Madam Secretary, what is the first report?
The first report is that of the Committee on Accountability, Finance, and Personnel. The
Okay.
item number 2, action on recommended administrative appointments, promotions, reassignments and reclassifications, salary increases and decreases, and limited term employment contracts exceeding 60 days has been set aside as it was forwarded to the board without recommendation.
Thank you. Do any board members wish any other items be set aside from this committee? Yes. Director
Item
O'Halloran.
number 3.
Excuse me?
Item number 3.
Okay, item number 3. Any other items that we'd like to set aside? Seeing none. Madam Secretary, what is the next report?
The next report is that of the Committee on Parent and Community Engagement. No items of this report has been set aside for separate consideration.
Do any board members wish any items of this committee to be set aside? Seeing none, we'll move on. Madam Secretary, what is the next report?
The next report is the report on the Committee on Strategic Planning and Budget. No items of this report have been set aside for separate consideration.
Do any board members wish any items to be set aside? Seeing none, we'll move on. Madam Secretary, what is the next report?
The next report is that of the Committee on Student Achievement and School Innovation. No items of this report has been set aside for separate consideration.
Do any board members wish any items from this committee to be set aside? Seeing none, we'll move on. At this point, I'd like to ask for a motion for the balance of the reports of the standing committees. Director O'Halloran
I move approval of the balance of the items.
and Director Gokul Gandhi.
I second.
Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
On Director O'Halloran's motion, seconded by Director Gokul Gandhi, to move approval of the balance of the standing reports, and that is outside of the items that have been set aside. Director Carr.
Aye.
Director Garcia.
Aye.
Director Gokul Gandhi.
Aye.
Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Simpson.
Aye.
Vice President Taylor.
Aye.
President Peterson.
Aye.
That's 9 ayes. The motion passes.
Madam Secretary, what's the next item?
Mr. President, we are now back to the items that were set aside, and the first item that was set aside is from the report on the Accountability, Finance, and Personnel Committee. Item number 2, action on recommended administrative appointments, promotions, reassignments, and reclassifications, salary increases and decreases, and limited term employment contracts exceeding 60 days. Your committee has forwarded this item to the board without recommendation.
Do board members wish to ask any questions or make comments? Director Carr.
I make a motion that we go into executive session to discuss item number 2.
Okay. Dr. Mann, do we just take a vote on that, or do we?
We would need a second to discuss the item or to go into closed session.
Okay, so the motion is to go into closed session. Is there a second for that? Director O'Halloran?
I second.
Okay,
At this time, Mr. Chair, you would need a vote to go into closed session.
okay, please call the roll.
On Director Carr's motion to move into closed session to discuss item number 2, action on recommended administrative appointments, promotions, reassignments, and reclassifications, salary increases and decreases, and limited term employment contracts exceeding 60 days, seconded by Director O'Halloran. Mr. President, before going into closed session, we would need you to read the exception that allows the board to go into closed session on this item. And that is for our listening audience to be sure that they understand that the board is allowed to go into closed session when discussing personnel items.
Do you want to read that now?
Actually, I would need you to read it into the record as the board's chair.
Okay. And we do that before we vote.
That is correct. And this is to be sure that the board understands what exception allows them to go into closed session on what item, as well as the public.
Okay, thank you. In regard to the report on accountability, finance, and personnel items, number 8A1 and 8A2, pursuant to the provisions of the Wisconsin statutes, Chapter 19.85, 1C, the board may retire to executive session for the purpose of considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. The board may reconvene in an open session or take action on matters considered in executive session and/or to continue with the remainder of its agenda.
So noted.
So noted. Okay, please take the roll.
On Director Carr's motion, seconded by Director O'Halloran, to go into closed session regarding item number 2, action on recommended administrative appointments. On the motion as read, Director Carr.
Aye.
Director Garcia.
Aye.
Director Gokul-Gandhi.
Aye.
Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Simpson.
Aye.
Vice President Taylor.
Aye.
President Peterson.
Aye.
That's 9 ayes. The motion passes.
Can we go into closed session?
At this time, we will retire to closed session, and I will note the time.
Okay,
And then when we come back, we will note the time of return.
thank you very much.
Thank you. to closed session to consider an item that was set aside from the Standing Committee on Accountability, Finance, and Personnel, and that is item number 2, action on recommended administrative appointments, promotions, reassignments and reclassifications, salary increases and decreases, and limited term employment contracts exceeding 60 days.
Thank you. What is the pleasure of the board with respect to this item? Director O'Halloran,
I move approval of administration's recommendations.
do we have a second? Director Carr,
Second?
okay. Any further conversation? Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Under Director O'Halloran's motion, seconded by Director Carr, to approve the administration's recommendation, which is to approve the recommended administrative appointments, promotions, reassignments, and reclassifications, salary increases and decreases, and limited term employment contracts exceeding 60 days. On the motion as read into the record, Director Carr.
Aye.
Director Garcia.
Aye.
Director Gokul-Gandhi.
Aye.
Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Seamson.
Aye.
Vice President Taylor.
Aye.
President Peterson.
Aye.
That's 9 ayes. The motion passes.
Director O'Halloran, do you have something to say?
I do. To everyone who is newly hired or received a promotion, thank you so much for bringing your talents to serve the students, staff, and community of MPS. Go forth and do great things.
Thank you. Round of applause for them. Madam Secretary, what's our next item of business?
Mr. Chair, the next item that was set aside was from the reports of the Committee on Accountability, Finance, and Personnel, and that was item number 3, action on a request for an amendment to the 2022-2023 traditional school calendar. The administration recommends, your committee recommends that the board approve the amendment to the calendar as reflected in the attachment to this item.
Okay. And do any board members wish to make comments? Director O'Halloran.
Thank you. I just have a bunch of questions, but I'm not really interested in holding up the item, so I'm just hoping I can get some answers to the questions. A constituent had written in just that this is the second year in a row we're kind of making changes to the calendar mid-year. Last year we did some half-days that were understandable, and this year again, you explained the reasoning behind it's just now that it's 2 years in a row that this is happening, and for families that have issues with childcare or vacations or whatever, it does kind of throw a wrench in the plans. So the questions were like how often do these changes happen? If it was 2 years, I don't recall honestly before these past 2 years that it's been happening, but does this happen very frequently?
Administration.
President Peterson, Director O'Halloran, members of the board, Adrian Maddaleni, Chief Human Resources Officer. I guess I'm in a lucky position. I've been doing calendars for a long time, going back to when I was a Director of Employment Relations. So historically, I would say it has been very infrequent that we have changed the calendar in the middle of the year. I think last year was a very unique situation, as you alluded to, with the half-days, and we understand the needs, of our staff and things that need to happen, COVID, everything that was going on, that we needed to have those half-days in place. Yeah, this situation was definitely an anomaly this year. Felt this is in the best interest of the community, of the students and the staff as well, to make sure all the grades and everything is done appropriately. Next year, we have built in that day, so we won't have this issue, but I can tell you, yes, I can't recall another time prior to last year where we kind of made a mid-year challenge. The only exception would be if it was due to inclement weather. I think there's a day, one year we had like maybe 4 or 5 inclement weather days that we had no choice but to make a change in the middle of the year. We didn't have enough PD days to switch out.
Follow-up?
So I guess kind of some of the questions that would follow are kind of almost moot because we don't do this very frequently, but so how how are proposed changes assessed or deemed of significant value that you would even bring them back to the board, like, to be considered for this change? Like, I guess you already explained the reasoning for the one, but just for the constituents who are concerned about, like, what's going to happen next year, you know, if there were another change, do you have a certain thought process or analysis that would go through to say, yes, this is worthy to make this change for consideration, or we deem this so outside the bounds of what's necessary?
Administration?
Thank you, President Peterson, Director O'Halloran, members of the board, Adrian Madelini, Chief Human Resources Officer. Usually, we get feedback, whether it be, like, for instance, whenever the calendar is posted for public comment, you can get some comments. People say, oh, what about this or that? I've gotten constituent concerns in previous years about taking into consideration this holiday or whatever, those type of things, and I make sure we keep those in mind moving forward. So we do take feedback, so there are situations like that. Parents send those constituent concerns. I get that feedback, and when I work with my team on the calendars, we take those things into consideration. But when it comes to mid-year changes, like for this one in particular, we have conversations, we have regular ongoing communication with MTEA when, you know, they voice their concerns or what they're hearing from their teachers. And a lot of times if there's staffing issues related to the calendar, that's how it'll be approached. And then through a discussion with our union partners, with senior team, everyone, we have those discussions of, is this an important, you know, change that we would need to do? Is this something that will be to the benefit of all? We'll take that into consideration before we would bring something forward and start the process of coming to the board to ask for the change. Yes, we absolutely take into consideration the impact it will have on our families. So we try to bring this forward as soon as possible and give as much notice. And if this item would get approved tonight, we'll start the communication tomorrow. We'll get it posted and getting the information out to the families so they are well aware, and if they have to make adjustments. And we also understand that if other extenuating circumstances in place and the adjustment can't be made, we understand. And we just hope the families understand this and are patient with us, and we will do everything we can within our power, knock on wood, not to do a mid-year change next year.
Thank you. Any further comments?
Thank you for your explanation and your entertaining my questions. So my understanding is if it would ever come up again, it would come before the board for discussion. And I would just say if it were to ever come up again, which we are saying we are trying not to do, if families can get notice earlier, because I don't think a lot of families even know that this was a discussion. So, you know, not everybody, I can't believe that not everybody in Milwaukee monitors every single one of our agenda items. But, you know, for some families, they may not have even been aware that this discussion was happening. So if it would ever have to happen again, as much notice as can be provided would be great. So thank you.
Thank you. What's the pleasure of the board on this item?
It's already been.
Has it been moved and seconded?
It was approved at the committee level. So do we need to?
Madam Secretary?
As this item was set aside, you do need to take action on this
That's what I
item.
thought. So could I have a motion? Director O'Halloran?
I move approval of the item.
Second? Director Carr?
Second.
Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
On Director O'Halloran's motion, seconded by Director Carr, to approve the amendment to the 2022-23 National School Calendar as submitted in the attachment to this item. On the motion as read, Director Carr?
Aye.
Director Garcia?
Aye.
Director Gokul Gandhi?
Aye.
Director Herndon?
Aye.
Director Leonard?
Aye.
Director O'Halloran?
Aye.
Director Simpson?
Aye.
Vice President Taylor? Aye. President Peterson?
Aye.
That's 9 ayes, the motion passes.
Madam Secretary, are there any items of regular business?
Yes, Mr. President, we do have one item of regular business, and that is the reports of the board's delegate. That first report is of the board's delegate to the District Advisory Council.
Can we hear that report?
So that report should be before you, if I did my technology correctly, thank you. Okay. But I do want to talk just briefly a little bit of a big positive that we saw today. I was at Brown Street Academy for seeing the fruition of really a beginning of one of our mentor programs called Heroes and Sheroes with Mr. Marshall, Reverend Marshall, and I just want to thank the staff, Christy Stone, Daryl Hall, and everybody in their program for making this all happen. It was just a very positive event to see. There must have been, I don't know, Dr. Posey, would you say 60 young men in there? About 60 young men that are being mentored, really spot on. I wish I ran my class that as well as that was being done, I'll be honest with you, but it was excellent. It was very well done, and I just wanted to brag about it, so thank you.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, the next report?
The next report is that of the board's delegate to the Head Start Policy Council.
That report is before you. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out.
Madam Secretary, what's the next report?
The next report is that of the next report is the board president's report. Oh, I'm sorry, it's for the delegate of CISA 1.
CISA 1, yes. Dr. Hernan?
Thank you, Madam Secretary. You have the report before you for CISA 1, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Madam Secretary, what's the next report?
The next report is that of the board's delegate to the Wisconsin Association of School Boards.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. The report is before you. Also, I would just say, take a close look. A lot of these are resolutions that was passed at the state level, dealing with student services, special ed, teaching requirements. Also, we were only able to get through some of them. We lost quorum. And so there is a process of losing quorum of some of the resolutions and the process in which they would have to go forward back to our policy resolution. And I just want to thank you to Director Garcia and Director Carr. They sit on there from Milwaukee and they represent us well, I'm told. But I would say definitely take a look at some of these resolutions because some of them do tie into some of the issues and situations we go into in Milwaukee. So it can be another thing for us to lobby together with other school board directors throughout the state of Wisconsin.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Secretary, what's the next report?
The next report is the report of the board's delegate to the Milwaukee Public Library Board.
And that report is before you. Happy to answer any questions. I don't know if it's here. I'm not seeing it.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
We do have information from the library board, and this report will be given next month, as they did not meet this month, but the board did receive some information.
I'm sorry, and I thought I was told it was on here, and I was looking like, oh wait, no, it's not. So I'm sorry about that.
No worries. Okay, Madam Secretary, what's the next item?
The next item is a report of the president of the Milwaukee Board of School Directors.
And that report will be put forward for you to see along with next month's report at the next meeting. Madam Secretary, are there any items of unfinished business?
Mr. President, we have no unfinished business this month.
Are there any items of new business for referral to committee?
Mr. President, we have no items for referral, no new business.
Is there any, Madam Secretary, are there any communications for referral to committee?
This month, we have no communications for referral.
Madam Secretary, are there any resolutions for referral to committee?
Mr. President, members of the board, we have no resolutions for referral this month.
Madam Secretary, are there any other items on our agenda?
Mr. President, that was the last item on tonight's agenda.
Okay, Director, excuse me before I adjourn, Director Garcia.
Yes, no, I just wanted to follow up with the WASB. I wanted to make sure we took this opportunity to thank Mr. Evans out at Vincent High School and Dr. Posley for organizing a tour. We were able to get 40 delegates from throughout the state to come and visit our school. So I want to give a shout out to the team at Vincent. You all did an amazing job at representing, just what makes MPS an amazing place to educate our children, that's forward-looking, that's preparing students, at putting, innovation into the classrooms. So I also wanted to give a shout out to Ryder, their dog, and wondering if we had any updates if the lamb did give birth that day that we were scheduled to tour.
Administration?
President Peterson and members of the board, I have no update on the land. I'll find out and make sure you're aware.
Seeing that there's no further business, this meeting is adjourned. Good, thank you.